Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence comes evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? Thus pronounces Epicurus, a Greek philosopher well before the birth of Christ. The argument presents a paradoxical situation where the coexistence of evil and the boundless goodness and the all-powerfulness of God are juxtaposed. Epicurus' statement summarizes the profound challenge encountered by various theological perspectives when considering a God who is characterized as both benevolent and mighty. The endeavor to tackle this predicament is referred to as theodicy. The problem of theodicy is a philosophical and theological dilemma that seeks to reconcile the existence of evil and suffering in the world with the belief in an all-powerful, all-knowing, and benevolent God. It raises the question of how a loving and omnipotent God can allow or permit evil to exist. The term theodicy was coined by the German philosopher Leibniz in the 18th century, combining the Greek words theos and dike. The central concern of theodicy is to address the apparent contradiction between the existence of evil and the traditional attributes ascribed to God. The problem can be summarized in the following logical arguments. First, God is all-powerful, omnipotent. God is all-knowing, omniscient, and God is perfectly good, omnibenevolent. Second, evil and suffering exist in the world. Third, if God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and perfectly good, then there should be no evil or suffering. Fourth, therefore, either God is not all-powerful, not all-knowing, or not perfectly good, or evil and suffering do not exist. Various attempts have been made throughout history to address the problem of theodicy. Different philosophical and theological perspectives offer different solutions or arguments to reconcile the existence of evil with the notion of a loving and powerful God. Hi, I'm Angga Arifka. If you like what I do, please like, share, and subscribe. This channel is not monetized. You can help this channel out monetarily, be it PayPal or Patreon. In this video, we will explore the problem of evil in the world according to one of the greatest Muslim philosophers, Avicenna. Ibn Sina's metaphysics is rooted in Neoplatonic and Aristotelian principles, particularly his understanding of God as the necessary existence, the first cause, and the source of all existence. In his view, God is pure actuality and does not possess potentiality or imperfection. This understanding of God as the necessary existence lays the foundation for his exploration of the problem of evil. Quote, the Almighty's essence, not something outside of it, is what causes things to be exported, and his essence is what creates the system of goodness. Everything that comes from the Almighty's essence must be in harmony with it, and for God's essence to be good, it must itself be good. Everything must therefore be normal and good because it does not go against the fundamental principles of transcendence. Ibn Sina asserts that God's essence is the ultimate source of existence and manifestation of all things in the world. He emphasizes that this causal power arises from within God's essence itself and not from any external source. Moreover, God's essence is inherently good and that this goodness is the foundation of the entire cosmic order. In other words, all things that emanate from God's essence are in accordance with His goodness, and since everything in existence originates from God's essence, it must inherently reflect and be consistent with the attributes and qualities of that essence. In this context, logically, if God's essence is fundamentally good, then everything that emerges from it must also align with goodness. It's important to note that Ibn Sina anchors his view on his belief that God's essence is perfect and lacks any deficiency or imperfection. Hence, Ibn Sina concludes that as everything that originates from God's essence is in accordance with His goodness, the resulting order and existence must also be regular and good. He argues that the existence of evil or contradiction with the essence of transcendence would be incompatible with the notion of a perfect and transcendent God. Therefore, Ibn Sina defines evil as follows. Quote, evil is innately non-existent, but not all non-existence is evil. Instead, it is the lack of perfection that anything belongs in relation to its sort or nature. Evil is a non-existent thing that has no essence, but its lack of essence or imperfection for essence. In light of this, evil is seen by Ibn Sina to be a non-existent thing that doesn't exist, and its absence is equivalent to the absence of perfection that exists in the very essence of everything. Ibn Sina analyzes his assertion that evil is non-existent and even defines it as so in specific cases. According to him, the word evil has two meanings. First, it refers to flaws such as ignorance, inability, and imperfection in creation. And second, it refers to internal feelings like as grief and sadness that do not physically exist but are yet felt. For the evil, there can be no existential dimension. Nonetheless, Ibn Sina acknowledges the existence of evil and suffering in the world, but argues that they are not inherent qualities or substances. Rather, he sees evil as a privation or lack of perfection. According to him, evil is not an independent entity, but a privation of goodness, similar to darkness being the absence of light. In Ibn Sina's view, everything in the world is contingent and derives its existence from God. He argues that God as the necessary existence is pure goodness and perfection. However, since existence is a continuum of degrees of perfection, things in the world possess varying levels of perfection. Evil, therefore, is the absence or lack of perfection that exists in things to a certain degree. Quote, all the creations of the Almighty Creator are inherently good, and God, who is the absolute good, has created them inherently good, and there is no evil in the creations of the Almighty God. But it is the superficial view of human beings that considers things evil. Then what makes a human being feel sad, unfortunate, or sorrowful? Is it true that such suffering is due to the existence of evil? According to Ibn Sina's perspective on theodicy, the existence of evil and suffering is a result of the inherent limitations and imperfection of contingent beings. While he acknowledges the reality of misfortune and sadness in the world, he would interpret these experiences as part of the imperfect nature of human existence rather than direct acts of God. Ibn Sina rejects the idea that man's perception of suffering and pain, which is due to the existence of evil, is accurate. And Ibn Sina holds the opinion that whether or not something is desirable to a person determines whether or not it is good or evil for that person. If something benefits a person, it is good. If it causes a loss, a person views it to be bad. As a result, the existence of evil depends on man's reputation, and an object's desirability determines whether it is good or evil. However, this perception of man frequently runs into difficulties and creates cognitive errors. Moreover, from Ibn Sina's standpoint, misfortune and sadness arise due to the contingent and imperfect nature of human beings and their interactions with the world, which is in nature the world of generation and corruption. As human beings, we are subject to various factors and circumstances beyond our control, such as illness, loss, or disappointment. These experiences can lead to feelings of misfortune and sadness. However, Ibn Sina's perspective does not view these negative experiences as purposeless or devoid of meaning. Instead, he would argue that they serve a purpose in the broader scheme of existence. They can be seen as opportunities for personal growth, moral development, and the cultivation of virtues. through adversity, individuals can develop resilience, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the human condition. Moreover, Ibn Sina's metaphysical framework posits that the existence of evil and suffering contributes to the overall balance and harmony of the cosmos. While an individual may personally experience misfortune and sadness, these individual experiences are part of a larger cosmic order in which various elements and beings interact and contribute to the creator good. Quote, evil has types that are sometimes called evil and it means a defect, and examples of these defects are ignorance, weakness, and ugliness. Sometimes they are referred to as evil and mean pain and sorrow. Evil is that the cause is incompatible with good or that the absence of the good causes goodness. The one who suffers does not realize it, like a cloud that casts a shadow and prevents the sun from shining on the creature in need of light. It is important to note that Ibn Sina's perspective may not address the emotional or psychological aspects of human suffering in great detail. While he offers a metaphysical explanation for the existence of evil, his focus lies more on the broader philosophical understanding rather than individual subjective experiences. Therefore, for a person feeling misfortune and sadness, seeking solace and support from emotional, psychological, and social sources may be necessary in addition to philosophical or theological reflection. Ibn Sina argues that evil is not caused by God, rather emerges from limitations and imperfections inherent in contingent beings. As contingent beings, humans and other entities are composed of both essence and existence. While essence is the potential for perfection, existence is the actualization of that potential. Nevertheless, due to the inherent limitations of contingent existence, entities do not always fully actualize their potential for perfection, resulting in the presence of evil or imperfection. Actually, Ibn Sina distinguishes between two types of evil: non-existent evil and existential evil. Non-existent evil, also known as privation, refers to the absence or lack of a perfection that should be present in a particular entity or aspect of existence. It is the absence of a good that should naturally be there. Ibn Sina views evil in this sense as a negation or privation of a particular quality or attribute. For example, darkness is the privation of light, or blindness is the privation of sight. Non-existent evil does not have an independent existence of its own, but is understood in relation to the absence of a good that should exist. Ibn Sina argues that non-existent evil is not caused by God, but rather emerges due to the inherent limitations and imperfections of contingent beings. These beings, due to their contingent nature, do not fully actualize their potential for perfection, resulting in the presence of privation or non-existent evil. Imagine a beautiful garden with various types of flowers and plants. Each plant has its own unique qualities and characteristics. Now suppose there is a particular rose plant in the garden that is not blooming. It appears withered and lacks the vibrant and fragrant blooms that roses typically possess. In this scenario, the non-existent evil or privation would be the absence of the rose's natural beauty and vitality. The rose should naturally possess vibrant, healthy blooms, but due to certain factors like lack of proper nourishment or sunlight, it is unable to fully actualize its potential for perfection. In this case, the non-existent evil does not arise from any active malevolence or intentional action. It is not a direct act of God or an external force causing the withering of the rose. Rather, the non-existent evil is the result of the contingent and imperfect nature of the rose's existence within the garden. Ibn Sina would argue that this non-existent evil in the withered rose is not directly caused by God, but emerges due to the inherent limitations and imperfections present in contingent beings and their interactions with their environment. By understanding non-existent evil in this way, Ibn Sina emphasizes that evil in terms of privation is not a positive entity or substance, but the absence or lack of a perfection that should naturally be present. It helps to illustrate his perspective on how evil is not directly caused by God, but is rather a consequence of the contingent and imperfect nature of existence. And existential evil, on the other hand, refers to the actual presence of negative qualities or attributes that cause harm, suffering, or disorder in the world. It is the manifestation of evil that is observable and experienced in reality. Examples of existential evil include acts of cruelty, violence, pain, and suffering. Unlike non-existent evil, existential evil is not seen as a lack or absence of perfection, but as a positive reality that exists in the world. It encompasses actions, events, and states that are considered morally or ethically objectionable and detrimental to well-being. Ibn Sina's understanding of existential evil aligns with his view that evil emerges from the contingent and imperfect nature of human beings and their interactions with the world. He sees existential evil as part of the overall balance and order of the cosmos, even though it may be morally objectionable or cause suffering at the individual level. Consider a scenario where a person intentionally harms another individual. Let's say there is a bully who physically and verbally abuses a classmate. The bully's actions cause pain, suffering, and emotional distress to the victim. In this example, the existential evil lies in the actual acts of bullying and the harm inflicted upon the victim. It is a tangible and observable reality with direct negative consequences for the victim's well-being. The actions of the bully, characterized by cruelty and violence, exemplify the presence of existential evil. Existential evil encompasses a range of morally objectionable actions, events, or states that cause harm, suffering, or disorder in the world. It can manifest in various forms such as acts of violence, oppression, deceit, exploitation, or any behavior that goes against moral or ethical principles. From Ibn Sina's perspective, existential evil emerges due to the contingent and imperfect nature of human beings and their choices. It represents the negative consequences of human actions that deviate from goodness, compassion, and ethical conduct. In this example, existential evil arises from the intentional acts of the bully who chooses to engage in harmful behavior towards the classmate. It is important to note that while existential evil may exist and cause suffering, Ibn Sina's framework suggests that it serves a purpose within the overall balance and order of the cosmos, even if it is morally objectionable at the individual level. By examining existential evil, we can understand Ibn Sina's viewpoint that evil is not solely a result of God's direct action, but rather emerges from the contingent nature of human beings and their choices. For Ibn Sina, the problem of evil, once more, can be understood within the context of the cosmic order established by God. He believes that God created the best possible world given the inherent limitations and imperfections of contingent existence. Evil and suffering, in his view, serve a purpose in the greater scheme of existence, contributing to the overall harmony and balance of the cosmos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.